Welcome to A Course in Miracles, where you'll discover health and well-being through inner peace. Your host is Eloisa Ramos, EFT master and author of Beyond Self-Esteem, Discovering Your Boundless Self-Worth. Using EFT, the Ramos clearing technique, and the principles of A Course in Miracles, you'll learn how to open your mind to healing and to all that is inherently yours: deep fulfillment, vitality, joy, and inner peace.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's show. Our topic is Miracle Healing with A Course in Miracles. We will be exploring the questions, what is a miracle, and why the miracle heals. So to answer these questions, we will be looking at some of the ideas from A Course in Miracles that will help us understand the miracle and also the lessons 75 to 80. Okay, and these ideas are separation, projection, magical thinking, healing, and the miracle. Okay, so let's start with a problem that needs miracle healing. And we're going to go to lesson 78, okay, which says, let me recognize the problem so that it can be solved. And the Course in Miracles looks at all problems as basically just one problem, and that is separation. Okay, so what we want to explore today is three things. Okay, what is a problem? What makes a problem a problem? And what is separation? And why don't we recognize separation as the only problem? Okay. So let's start. When we look at any problem, okay, we will find that the mind is judging and rejecting something. So anytime we judge, there's an automatic rejection. Okay, so it means that we're kind of pushing it away. We're separating from it, and you can actually feel that energetically. When you reject something, you can actually feel that force. When we do that, when the mind judges and it compares first, but then it judges. What it's doing is it's evaluating, perceiving something as lacking somewhere, okay? And I'm going to illustrate these ideas with an example for you. Okay, so I'm running errands, and I need to go to the post office. And when I get there, I see that all the parking spaces near the front of the building are occupied. Okay, so I look, I loop around, and that's fine. I don't have a problem. I find a space that's a bit farther away. And that space would have been perfect, except that as I pulled into the space, I see that a car is pulling out from the front, nearest the building. Okay. As I see this, I notice a slight internal disturbance within me. Okay. And so I take a look at that. Okay. And what I see is that this disturbance is making a comparison. Okay. And it's saying the space over there is closer to the post office. And that's fine. Okay. That's a fact. Okay. However, I further notice a desire rise to park the car over there instead of where I'm. And there's a tinge of dissatisfaction in there. Okay. So I take my attention to that that dissatisfaction. And here I see that I'm believing that the space closer to the building means less work and time for me. Okay? So I'm giving value to physical ease and saving time, which is fine. But what happens when I do that is that a problem shows up, because now the space that I'm in is lacking in value in comparison to the other space. So what I have in the present moment is no longer desirable. It was just a couple minutes ago, but now I'm rejecting it because in comparison to the other one, it's not as good. Okay? It's not good enough now. And I don't want it. So I feel dissatisfied. Okay. Now, before I compared, okay, and made the evaluation and made the judgment, I had absolutely no problem. Now I'm wishing I could park in the other one. And the thought did cross my mind to drive around and try to get that space. It just opened up. Okay? And so I if I had done that, I would have allowed this thinking to guide my behavior. Okay? But I stopped right there. I let the thought go. And you could say that I came back to my right mind. And the Course in Miracles uses that terminology, being in your right mind or not. Okay? And so instead, I use the tapping. I have a clearing technique that I use to just kind of quickly undo that stuff that shows up. And so what's important to notice here, okay, is that there was no problem, okay? My mind turned it into a problem, and I became dissatisfied, okay? Now, if you're someone that takes, and we all do it, we take things personally, okay? Or if maybe I hadn't stopped and tapped on it, I might have taken this personally. I don't know. But what could have happened here is that if we had taken it personally, we would have identified ourselves with what we have, or with what we do, or with what we accomplish. Okay, and we could have concluded that, unless I have that space, that valuable space next to the front of the building, I could have concluded that I am somehow not as valuable because I have a less valuable space. And that somehow, magically, the person that has that other space is going to be more than me, okay? Because I failed to get the best space. Okay, and so this example, you can take this example and you can apply it to any other problem. Okay, by extension, you can say, okay, well, maybe I have brown eyes, but I value blue eyes more. Okay, or maybe I see that I get angry often and believe that this shows a lack of control. So I'm going to see those individuals that hold their temper well as better than me. Okay, and so what we do is we begin to take these problems as if they are saying something about us personally. And then we make conclusions about our own value in comparison to the value of others. Okay? And this is how we build negative self-images of ourselves. Okay, and this is also how we make ourselves separate and different from others. Okay? Because without judgment and comparison, we could not see ourselves as better than or more special than them, and in reverse, of course, because it's a double-edged sword, we would not be able to see ourselves as less than either. And so, let's see. So in fact, there was no real problem. Okay, my thinking made it up. Okay, and I felt negative emotions. Those are the effects of my thinking. And if I had, followed that guidance and changed my behavior, I would have been following. I would have been guided by that thinking. Okay, which the Course in Miracles basically calls the ego thought system. And this is what it refers to as miscreation. Okay? Because it's fundamentally illusion. Okay? Is there really anything wrong with the parking space that's, that parking space was probably maybe, let's see, there was a difference of about 50 feet. It wasn't even that big of a difference, okay? So we are not in our right mind when we react and respond to this type of thinking, because we have lost sight of our inherent value, okay, which comes with the recognition that there is no separation. Okay, so, separation is a perception that we're not equal, okay, that we are not all, and you could use the word brothers, because if you recognize that we all share the energy we call life, then we all fundamentally come from the same source, or we're connected to the same source. So what we're doing here, when we're not recognizing that same source which unites us, is that we are seeing ourselves as separate. And what we do then is that the behavior ends up often expressing a lack of love or rejection instead. Okay, because I could have extended that and made it personal to the person that did get that space in the front and said, "Oh, he's a lucky, SOB," and some people are just, I don't know, more. It's unfair, right? I could go into the world is unfair, and some people are just luckier, they have more than I do, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so what happens is that when we don't see ourselves as one in source or spirit or life, okay, we perceive ourselves as bodies. We perceive ourselves as these separate things that have boundaries. And the reason why we don't recognize that the only problem is separation is because we have accepted separation as normal. We have accepted that we are bodies, and we consider that the truth. We consider that normal. We call it reality. We don't call it illusion. We call it reality. We say problems are normal. Everyone has problems. We want to believe in equality, but what we focus on is the differences, so that we can, be special and that's how we try to solve our idea that we're not good enough, okay? Or we try to solve the problem of survival because we see ourselves as different bodies, and of course, survival implies that not everybody can survive, because then we wouldn't call it survival. It has to be that some have to perish or fight somehow or defend, because inherent in the definition of survival is scarcity, is lack, and therefore there's not enough for everybody to go around, so everybody cannot survive. And we're not so easy to want to let go of that either, because we want to be the one that is stronger, that survives, and not the weak one that doesn't survive, and that somehow, makes us feel special. And when we talk about the strength, we're not talking about spiritual strength, okay? Because spirit is eternal and is not subject to death. So spirit does not need to enter into this problem with survival. So that whole can of worms opens up when we perceive separation and when we perceive ourselves as separate. Okay, so to just reiterate, what is separation? It's basically exclusion, and it's disassociation, because it's a rejection, it's a divorcing of myself from you and from others, or even from my own self. We do that to ourselves. I can dissociate from my emotions. I can divorce myself from them because I'm judging them. I'm judging them dangerous to me, or I'm judging them bad, or whatever. And so the Course in Miracles uses the word right mind and not right mind when we are either perceiving separation, or when our perception is clearly noticing the differences, but not making those differences the reality of what we are, okay? And so when we're not in our right mind, we're being guided by the ego thought system that judges. Okay, and so this brings us to the idea of projection, because it's connected to separation. Projection is what our mind does to keep believing that separation is real. It's defending separation. Okay, it's a belief that says, I can change how I was created. Okay, so when I believe that there is a lack or an emptiness in me or in you, and that I can fill it with my own ideas, of specialness and value instead of truth. That's what projection is. It's the mind making a problem, and then seeing it outside of itself, because it's not recognizing that it is the maker of the problem. Because it can't see that it doesn't lack anything. Okay, so projection is just another word for miscreation. And when I miscreate, the problem is the mind is not recognizing that it is the maker of the problem. Therefore, the mind goes outside to solve the problem, because it's going to believe that the cause of the problem is outside of itself. And so it's going to get frustrated, because it doesn't have control over things that is outside, that it has placed outside of itself. So anything that we judge and reject, we separate from and we put it outside of ourselves, but it also puts it outside of our control. So if I have made myself not good enough, okay, if I believe myself that to be not good enough, if my mind does not recognize that it is making the problem up, okay, it's going to go try to find solutions to that in the world, okay. So maybe, maybe I believe that I need to get a boyfriend to not be lonely, or to be good enough, because I lack that. So what the Course in Miracles teaches is that true creating can only happen when the mind recognizes it is whole and complete and lacks nothing. Okay? Because in that place, in that state, there are no needs or desires to be filled or accomplished. Just like in my parking example, I would have no desire or wish to go park over in the other place if I recognized that the parking space where I was perfect, that there was nothing wrong with it. And so this is why Lesson 75 says, okay, the light has come. And I'm going to quote a little bit from that. You are healed and you can heal. The light has come. You are saved and you can save. You are at peace and you bring peace with you wherever you go. Darkness and turmoil and death have disappeared. Okay, and the point is that when we get ourselves caught up in this type of thinking, okay, the thinking that my mind made up with a parking problem, okay, I am going to be very busy solving, doing, and accomplishing to try to not have this problem, okay, because I'm convinced that I have a real problem and that I cannot be happy until I fix it or I solve it, okay? And my solution is going to or my effort in if I had driven, okay, and gone around to try to get that parking space, okay, I would have been reinforcing the belief that the space I had was less than. Okay, so in my taking action to make that problem better for myself, I am reinforcing the idea that it was not good, that parking space was not good enough to begin with. Okay, so that the intention to save ourselves from lack, okay, is what keeps the judgment that there is lack, that we are less than, as real in our mind, and it's actually supporting that judgment and belief. So it's going to be even more difficult for us to change our mind and believe that we are already created whole and complete and healed. Okay, so that's why it says you are healed. Okay, so the healing happens when the light is recognized, or the truth. Okay, that lets go of the belief that says, I need this, I need healing, I don't have healing. Okay? So when you let go of the I don't need healing, you recognize that you have no lack. Okay? And when you recognize that, the mind that is making the problem corrects itself, and the effect of that correction is the healing, because the problem was not real to begin with. Okay? So the healing is really just the letting go of the illusion of the problem. Okay, so let's go continue with this idea to lesson 76. And lesson 76 says, I am under no laws but God's. Okay, and this lesson is going to bring up a lot of resistance, okay, because of what it says, okay? So I'm just going to tell you up front, if you're listening to this, just notice that resistance, and if you know how to tap, if you know how to do EFT, you can, tap on it while you're listening to it or tap on it afterwards. But I certainly had a lot of resistance to it, and because, let me read to you what it says. We have observed before how many senseless things have seemed to you to be salvation. Okay? And so with my problem with the parking, I was believing that my salvation was to try to go and grab that parking space that opened up before somebody else grabbed it. Okay? That would have been the senseless thing to do. Okay? Each has imprisoned you with laws as senseless as itself. You are not bound by them, yet to understand that this is so, you must first realize that salvation lies not there. And what it's saying is, I have to realize that my thinking made the problem, so why in the heck would trying to grab that space that opened up solve that problem? That's not what caused it, okay? It further says, while you seek for it in things that have no meaning, you bend yourself to laws that make no sense. Thus, you seek to prove salvation is where it is not, basically outside of us. Okay, and the part that's more difficult is this part that says, you really think that you would starve unless you have stacks of green paper strips and piles of metal discs. You really think a small round pellet or some fluid pushed into your veins through a sharpened needle will ward off disease and death. You really think you are alone unless another body is with you. Okay, so, all right, and yes, we do think these things, and yes, we do believe these, and it's asking us to really question that. Could that possibly be true? Okay, that little stacks of green paper and metal discs, okay, which he's talking about money, could really that we would really starve without those. Okay, and then of course it talks about drugs or whatever we take, and we all know about the placebo effect. Okay, so we understand partly that no, the mind has a lot to do with the effect that these ingested drugs have on us. Okay, but it's still really difficult to let go, and I'm going to try to explain what it refers to as magical thinking, because what he's saying right here is that we are really believing in magic when we believe this, and I'm going to explain that to try to help you understand what it's saying, because it's not saying do not use those things. What it's saying is stop giving them magical powers to save you, because that's not the cause of the problem, because you're not really addressing the cause of the problem. You're looking in the wrong place for the solution. Okay. And so let's see. Okay, so that's the main point that it wants to make. Okay, when it's talking about when it's trying to make you question those beliefs. So let's see. When I believe that the solution of my problems is outside of me, for example, that if I have enough money, I will be safe, or I will be loved, or I will be valued, that basically I will get what I lack. Okay, I'm giving magical powers to something outside of me. Okay, to green pieces of paper, or I'm failing to recognize the real cause of my feeling unsafe. And the real cause of every problem is separation. That's what it's teaching. Okay, and that comes from my judgment and thinking. Okay, and so I wanted to give you some more examples of what this magical thinking is. Okay, so we all know that magic is about tricks and it's about fooling our perception. Okay, so to believe that what we make of ourselves can be changed, okay, is like saying, okay, look, the magician puts a scarf into the hat and magically transforms it into a bunny rabbit. Okay, pulls the rabbit out of the hat. Okay, so we can believe anything that we want. Okay, and yeah, we can believe that. Oh my gosh, the magician really has powers to transform some scarf into a live bunny rabbit. Okay, but does it mean that he really did that? No, he didn't really do that. It's a trick. That's what magic is. It's a trick. It's a perceptual trick. So we can fool ourselves into believing we lack value, we lack love, that we are lonely and separate and self-made, or that we're more special, or that we're less than others. But does any of that change the truth? No, it doesn't change the truth. Now, we may not know, we may not have, any experience of what that truth really is, okay, because that truth is not found in our thinking mind. Okay. However, it still doesn't change the truth. Okay. All right. Let me give you another example of magic. So, oftentimes, especially when we're young, but we continue to do it when we are older. Okay. We really feel. Let's see. Who likes to be judged? Generally speaking, nobody likes to be judged. Who likes to be called names? Nobody likes to be called names, okay? It's upsetting, especially when you're, well, it's usually always upsetting. Okay, well, here's the thing. If someone calls you a loser, okay, that's a label, that's a judgment, okay. Does that have magical powers to transform you into something that you weren't a minute ago? Okay, so before someone called you a loser, were you a loser? No. So now all of a sudden someone calls you a loser. Well, does that transform you now into something that's called a loser? Okay, no, it doesn't. Okay, but we don't realize how much we really do believe that, because otherwise we wouldn't be getting upset. Okay, and I use this example with clients because that idea can be really stuck in their mind, especially from childhood trauma. Okay, and so if you have a file folder, and in the file folder you keep all your automobile expense receipts, and you have it labeled automobile expenses, and you have another file where you keep all of your say your insurance, payments, okay, or just say your insurance payments, okay. I have those insurance expenses, okay. If I go and switch those labels on the file folder, Okay, that's the same as calling someone a name, giving them a label, or judging them. Okay, have I changed the content of what's inside? No, I haven't changed the content. I can label the file folder that has the automobile expenses. I can label that. The insurance expenses. Okay. Have I magically transferred the content in the label? No, I have not magically transformed the content. The same content is still there. The only thing I have done is I have mislabeled the file. Okay, so the label does not have magical powers to change you, okay, from something that has value to a loser that does not have value. Okay, that's the point there. And another example is when we apply these magical powers to things, and the idea is like there's some people that believe in amulets that have special magical powers. They ascribe that kind of power to it. Well, your mind does that with so many things. You know, you can believe that having sex will make you masculine, or or that getting good grades will make you smart. Well, what are you saying? What you're saying is that somehow this thing, okay, or it can be a symbol, okay, a grade is more of a symbol, okay, or this activity, which would be sex, somehow has magical powers to make you something that you're not already, okay, or to make you more smart, or to change you, okay, and that's magical thinking, and that's also projection, okay. So magic is, the idea in magic is founded on the idea of scarcity, of seeing yourself as not having something, and believing that something outside of you has it, and then can transfer that magically over to you. Okay. Okay, and it also talks, the Course in Miracles also talks about what it calls rituals, and that we believe that rituals, like for example, doing these rituals will somehow keep us, has magical powers to keep us safe, or to give us value, or to save us. So, for example, I can believe that if I follow all the traffic laws to the T, okay, that I will never have a traffic accident. Okay, and of course we all know that that's not true. Okay, so if you have that belief and you're just parked at a red light doing what you're supposed to do, and someone runs into you, okay, that's going to be pretty upsetting, because your belief did not save you, basically. Your ritual did not save you. And I know that there's people that also make, for example, going to church every Sunday, they turn that into a ritual. And I grew up with a mother that really believed that if she, missed Mass, she had somehow changed herself from being a good person to a bad person. So that's kind of magical thinking. Okay, and so again, I want to emphasize, it's not saying, the Course in Miracles is not saying don't follow the traffic. It's not saying don't go to church. It's not saying any of those things. Okay? All it's saying is, yes, go ahead, do all those things you need to do, you want to do, okay? It's not saying don't use money because it doesn't have, it's worthless, okay? It's saying recognize that its power comes from the meaning that we are all collectively agreeing to give it. Okay, it does not have inherent power. in and of itself. And I've kind of mentioned this when I've talked in the past about allergies, and that the substance itself, okay, is not the one causing the reaction, okay? Because if it was, then everybody ingesting that substance would be having the exact same reaction, because the problem would be inherent in the thing, in the peanut, okay? So let's go on to lesson 77, okay, because now we can talk about miracles. And lesson 77 says, I am entitled to miracles. Quote, your claim to miracles does not lie in your illusions about yourself, okay? It does not depend on any magical powers you have ascribed to yourself, nor on any rituals you have devised. It is inherent in the truth of what you are. It is implicit in what God, your Father, is. It was ensured in your creation and guaranteed by the laws of God. Okay, so let's talk about miracle. And in page 23 of the text, it says, healing is not a miracle. The atonement, or the final miracle, is a remedy, and any type of healing is the result. Okay, and what it's saying here is that healing is not the miracle itself. Okay, healing is the effect, okay, of the miracle. It's what we see as the effect. Okay, when the mind, so healing is not a cause, healing is an effect. So when the mind, which is the cause, has seen the light and corrected its thinking, okay, which was the cause of the problem. So when it has corrected the idea of separation, that it is separate, okay, then that is the miracle. That is the correction that is needed for the healing to be the effect. Okay, and also on page 25 of the text, it says, miracles are expressions of miracle-mindedness. Okay, and in miracle-mindedness is simply a mind that has accepted what it calls the atonement. And the atonement is basically an acceptance of the love that we are, the love of God, the love of Source, the truth of what we are. And it is an act of love. It is expressed in terms of forgiveness, or in terms of releasing the judgment and the evaluation that we made, because that's the source of the problem. Okay, so the miracle implies the atonement. Okay, acceptance of the atonement implies that the mind has recognized it has been forgiven because the separation never happened. Okay, and so the problem of separation is basically a problem of illusion, because it's not possible to be separate from Source. Okay, that's why our claim to miracles is inherent in the truth of what we are. Our mind is holy and shares in the likeness of its Creator, which is only love. Okay. I'm going to quote a little more here. The sole responsibility of the miracle worker is to accept the atonement for him or herself. Okay, so lesson 78. Let miracles replace all grievances. Okay. Quote, perhaps it is not yet quite clear to you that each decision that you make is one between a grievance and a miracle. Each grievance stands like a dark shield of hate before the miracle it would conceal. We will reverse the way you see by not allowing sight to stop before it sees. We will not wait before the shield of hate, but lay it down and gently lift our eyes in silence to behold the Son of God. Okay, and that's basically the idea that within each of us is this loving essence that Course in Miracles calls the Son of God. And it's not more than one Son of God. It's just one, because we all share in that loving essence. And then lesson 80. Let me recognize my problems have been solved. Okay? End quote. If you are willing to recognize your problems, okay, and that means that you take responsibility for your thinking, okay, and for the separation that your perception is showing you because of our evaluations and judgments. So if we do that, it says, quote, you will recognize that you have no problems. Your one central problem has been answered and you have no other. Therefore, you must be at peace. One problem, one solution. Okay? And so, if you notice, every problem has stress and conflict to it. And that's why I felt that disturbance when I noticed that car pulling out. So within me, there showed up this disturbance, this stress. Okay, and that can only be there. That's what interferes with our internal peace. Okay, our natural state, our inherently natural state is peace. And when the thinking mind makes up problems through judging, what we experience is distress, or, we experience that internal disturbance because separation separation is only, because separation is not unified, and what is unified can have no opposition. So in order for there to be stress and conflict, you need to have separation. You need to have more than one. Okay? You are, and I'm going to quote further, you are entitled to peace today. A problem that has been resolved cannot trouble you. Only be certain you do not forget that all problems are the same. They are, and this is my own words, they are basically illusion, and that's what we are using EFT and other clearing techniques for. These techniques are not going to clear anything that is truth with a TH. The truth cannot be cleared, okay? And it doesn't need clearing because it's fundamentally loving and good, okay? So the only thing that we are ever tapping on is problems, okay? Just to kind of wrap it up here, the miracle is basically a change of mind about what we want to believe our identity is. Okay, are we a body? Are we spirit? And the reason it heals is because the problem or the stress or the dis-ease comes from the belief in separation. Okay, and if it's not possible to be separate from Source, then there is no problem. The solution has been given and the effects are healed. Okay. I'm going to quote from page 29 of the text. The truth is, you are responsible for what you think, because it is only at this level that you can exercise choice. What you do comes from what you think. Okay? And so it also says that the miracle worker must have genuine respect for true cause and effect as a necessary condition for the miracle to occur. Because if you're not seeing the problem where the root of it is, which is in your thinking, in your mind, you're going to be basically trying to solve something that you're going to, I gave this example before, you're going to be looking for your keys outside in the lamp light because you had no light in your house, but you dropped them in your house. So you're not going to solve the problem. Both, and then I'm going to continue quoting here, both miracles and fear come from thoughts. If you are not free to choose one, meaning if you do not accept that your thinking is causing your fear, okay, I continue, you would also not be free to choose the other. And so we need to recognize that our thinking is the cause of all of our problems. And that is the only way that we can know that we have the choice to believe something different. Otherwise, we're going to see it outside of ourselves, and we're going to believe we don't have choice and we have no control. So, again, as A Course in Miracles says, every choice we make is one between a grievance, which is a holding something against, which is separation, or a miracle. Okay. And that pretty much wraps up the program here. I hope that this was helpful, and I hope that you enjoyed it. If you would like to take the time and send me an email, let me know if you like the program or you have complaints. I'm open to hearing that. You can go to my website, www.healingwitheft.com, and I have a contact tab there where you can send me an email. So thank you for listening, and I hope you come back and listen again in our next show. Blessings to everyone.
For more information about EFT, muscle testing, working with Eloisa, and to download a free version of the Ramos clearing technique, visit www.healingwitheft.com.